going to take the North and never give it back.
So that's a good pick. You get the corner. I got to go bold, right? I got to go bold for this.
Yeah, she's got some nice.
Welcome back to the Unbearable Sports Podcast. I'm your host, Brad Barron, and welcome back into another show. It is Packer Week, and today we are breaking down the Chicago Bears versus the Green Bay Packers. But first, make sure to like and subscribe if you believe that, let's think, if Jordan Love is worse than Justin Fields. That's what we'll go with for today. I realized I didn't actually have the graphics for this one, but let's go back to the primary. There we go. EV Mux, the live stuff, I still have it all figured out on my little handy Stream Deck, so still kind of figuring that out still. But how are we doing today, ladies and gentlemen? We're going to be breaking down the injury report. We're going to be breaking down the offense, the defense, and then last but not least, as we always do, we're going to break down our game predictions. But let's get this going, shall we? With some injury report news. So to start things off, let's flip on over to the injury report, and let's start with the Chicago Bears, where I thought it was a little interesting today because Tyson Bagent, of all people, showed up on the injury report today with an illness, did not participate, right? Nothing crazy. It's the end of the year. So I think that's where it feels okay. It feels good, right? Like we don't need that. Nathan Peterman can be in if it's really anything serious with Bagent. But then next we have Jalen Johnson, who did not participate with a shoulder injury. And that's something to at least monitor a little bit, even though that there's some reports that he still should be good. Jalen Johnson overall, just someone to at least look out for with that shoulder injury. And Cole Kmet with the knee injury, both of them they are expected to play. And I'm recording this on Wednesday, so we only have one day. But really, they should play. Cole Kmet, though, I'll put a little question mark on that because we've seen how that's kind of affected him in the past. So I think that is something that we definitely need to monitor. But the big thing, Darnell Mooney. We need to talk about Darnell Mooney's concussion because we talked about it before, right? Darnell Mooney's concussion is something that I think this might be the last that we do see of a Darnell Mooney just because of his concussion. He did not participate, and I said this last week. Thursday is going to be the big key day to watch. If he's limited, that means that he has been limited in participation. They usually just take him out through the walkthroughs. If he does not participate, it means he's going to be out on Sunday. I say this every week because it seems like we always have someone with a concussion. That's kind of how these concussion pieces work. So Darnell Mooney looks like he's going to, in my opinion, I think he's going to be out. And that's why we saw wide receiver Colin Johnson get called up from the practice squad to the active roster. He made his first catch as a Chicago Bear last week. So hopefully, I think he could get a couple more just because he's a more natural wide receiver. So that's something that I'm excited to see. But also Reload said Jalen got Pro Bowl, but he's good to go for Sunday. Exactly. So I'm hoping he's able to play, then he can get ready for it overall. So we shall see. But let's also flip over to the Packers, where the Packers actually have some injury information as well. And actually, the last little bit that I do want to mention, Patrick Scales did not participate. The Bears also added a new long snapper to their practice squad just in case if Scales isn't able to go. But let's flip over to the Packers list and look at this gigantic list. So obviously the people listening can't see, but it's over 20 people if you want to count. I don't know if anyone in the comments wants to count all these out, but I know it's at least over 20. They have a lot of people on this list, but don't worry, we'll break it down a little quickly. So one of the people, Luke Musgrave, the tight end from the Packers, it looks like he's going to be activated off of IR, and he will play on Sunday, most likely, right? That's what the reports are at least saying. Obviously, it's still early on in the week. But three people to really look out for. Preston Smith did not participate on Wednesday, and he might be out, and he's a pretty good edge rusher for this defense. So if he's not, you're going to be looking at Kingsley Enagbare and also Lucas Van Ness to kind of take his place. They're both solid backups, I guess you could say, but Preston Smith definitely a lot better than both of those players. Also, A.J. Dillon, iffy with a hand injury. Kenyon Drake got called up, so it looks like A.J. Dillon might not play, but something definitely to monitor. But something that was new for the Green Bay Packers was Elton Jenkins, that left guard, has a brand new injury. He always seems to be injured, and really, now he's just banged up again, and it seems like he might not be able to play against the Chicago Bears. Everyone else, very limited. Lots of other Green Bay Packers. We're not going to talk about them too much, but let's get into the actual nitty-gritty. Let's get into the offense. Let's get into the defense. And I have a question for everyone out there on YouTube that can comment down below, live or after the show. How confident are you for Sunday on a scale of 1 to 10? Because I'm curious how everyone's feeling with this, because to me, I'm riding high. I'm riding the Bears high. We don't get many of these as Chicago Bears fans. So to me, I'm riding this hoping that we can become the king in the North and really kind of capture this. Yes, we didn't win the NFC North, but still, I like the idea of if we can knock out the Packers at Green Bay, redeem ourselves from the first encounter that we had with them, that's going to say a lot for us Chicago Bears out there. So that's what I'm really hoping we can get. So let me know what your confidence is, scale of 1 to 10. What's going on, Jay Grizz? Jay Grizz saying 10. I'm right there with you. I'm right there with you with the 10s. So let's keep on going and let's break down this Packers defense, shall we? So last year, this Packers defense, or in the first game, this Packers defense kind of gave us some fits. This defense ended up getting 4 sacks against us and also got 1 interception. And when you look at this team, later on, this team hasn't done as great. This defense overall is ranked 28th according to DVOA, which is not good, which means, because we all heard the stuff about Joe Barry is one of the worst defensive coordinators out there, and he's really taken this Packers defense, who, with all due respect, I think that this is actually a good Packers defense. I think that they have some pretty good pieces, but Joe Barry is saying, I'm going to take these pieces and just ruin them, which I'm all for. So I am team Joe Barry all the way through. But this Packers defense, like I said, 28th from Football Outsiders, or now it's like, I think it's FTN Fantasy now, the DVOA number, but also a little bit about this defense as well. 7th in pressure rate. So they still have Rashawn Gary, Kenny Clark, Devontae Wyatt, Preston Smith, if he's able to play. This is still a pretty good front four that the Green Bay Packers have, and they have that depth with Van Ness and Enagbare. But also they blitz the 10th highest percentage at 28.3%. They also, on the flip side, have allowed the 5th most rushing yards at 131.6. They're the 10th worst at stopping the run at 4.5 yards a carry, and the 11th best on the flip side with passing yards at 212.4. So when you hear those stats, something that you got to pay attention to is that we can run on these guys, right? They cause a lot of havoc up front, but really we got to be looking at running the football. Now, last time that we played them, we only got 4.2 yards a carry against them. Khalil Herbert, only 3 yards a carry. Roschon Johnson, 4. Deonta Foreman, 3.2. Justin Fields was where we were running the football and trying to get as much as we can, and he was running at a 6.6 yards a clip. So now we're looking at Justin Fields as our fearless leader, as someone who did throw 216 passing yards and 1 touchdown, which is technically above average what this Green Bay Packers defense allows. But we're going to have to lean on it because, man, I want to see Justin Fields dominate this. So I want to ask a question to the people that are watching right now and in the future. Over under 300 total yards for Fields. Are we thinking that's going to be over or under? Because, right, if he throws for 200, like, how many yards do we think he's going to throw for? How many passing yards, rushing yards? Because I think that he's going to have a good opportunity. Because Jair Alexander, when you look at this secondary really isn't that talented. They don't play too well because when you look at that, they got Keyshawn Nixon in the nickel, definitely someone that we can take advantage of. I think about what we can do with a DJ Moore. DJ Moore, we started to see him play a little bit of slot with Darnell Mooney out. And what was great about that was we were able to exploit the slot corner against the Atlanta Falcons. I really expect Luke Getsy to be calling DJ Moore's number a lot more in the slot so that we can attack a Keyshawn Nixon and try and get them away from Jaire Alexander. Even though Jaire is an absolute idiot when you hear him talk, he is actually a pretty good cornerback, even though that the PFF grade doesn't reflect it this year. He's still a pretty good player. But on the flip side, Carrington Valentine most likely will start at the outside corner position. A rookie, a 7th-round rookie out of Kentucky. We should be able to attack them in the passing game. And then obviously Darnell Savage as their safety and most likely Jonathan Owens as the other safety. So what we're seeing right here, if we go back and there's no, right, if it's just DJ Moore, we saw how last week we were able to attack. And it's also a Bobby Tonyan revenge game. I think that Justin Fields should try and attack more inside of that slot with DJ Moore and try to pick on Keyshawn Nixon. So then you can have your Colin Johnsons on the outside, right? And your Tyler Scotts trying to take the top off of the defense. I still feel like this Bears passing offense can still attack because even in the middle of the defense, Quay Walker and Isaiah McDuffie are very average linebackers at best for the Green Bay defense. So I think that they would be ripe for the picking up the middle in the passing game. And also, what's going on, Ron? And Ron's saying over 300 yards. And Jay Grizz already gave his prediction, 27-13 Bears. You love to see it, don't you? You absolutely love to see it. But let's talk about something that I think is going to be the story of the game. For the people that for the people that are watching this game, the big storyline, the big game plan is going to be this defensive line versus the Chicago Bears offensive line. Because last time that they played, we saw Nate Davis get absolutely cooked. And unfortunately, we had a couple good games of Nate Davis, but now Nate Davis is not looking so hot. But at the end of the season, we really have to look at this front line because Rashawn Gary comes in with 9 sacks, Preston Smith with 8, 6.5 for Kenny Clark, Devontae Wyatt with 4.5. Like I mentioned before, 7th highest pressure rate at 23%, and then the 10th highest blitz rate. So they'll blitz you a decent amount of times, but also they have the horses up front to get in your face. Now, Devontae Wyatt, he might not be the best in run defense, but PFF has him as the 12th highest graded defensive interior pass rusher. So he does get to the quarterback. He does cause some havoc up the middle, and Kenny Clark is one of the best nose tackles in the league. And where are we weak? In that center and right guard spot currently. So Tevin Jenkins, do your thing. Braxton Jones, do your thing. Darnell Wright, do your thing. It's going to be up that middle that I'm really going to be a little bit nervous about if I am the Chicago Bears. But let's also go over to the running attack. Because like I said, I think that this running attack is really going to be how they can also dominate the Packers, right? Control the ground and pound game. And who do you guys want as the starting running back? Who do you guys want to see get the bulk of the carries this game? I'm generally curious because we've seen Khalil Herbert do pretty well, and now he's kind of coming into his own, and he's kind of playing like the not injured Khalil Herbert. So to me, I want to see more Herbert. I want to see him play a lot more, and when he's cooking and when he's healthy, he can get by these people. And that's why I really think that you can keep on feeding Khalil Herbert. And that's why he's the guy to me that I want to see get fed the rock a little bit more. But I'm fine also with Deonta. Actually, personally, I kind of went Deonta Foreman on the sidelines. And the reason I like Deonta Foreman, I think that he's been a good player, but I want to see what this future of the running back position has. Deonta Foreman is most likely not going to, re-sign a low price deal or anything like that. If he does, awesome. love to have you back, right? I really like this running back room, even though that there's no true superstars. But if he wants to take a cheap deal, fine, but I want to see what we have. Put Khalil Herbert out there, and for the love of God, have Roschon Johnson pass block for Justin Fields and not put Khalil Herbert in those situations, because we see what happens when that goes down. And this is another game. The blitz percentage, the up-the-middle pressure, that a Roschon Johnson should really be able to help Justin Fields to try and get that pressure off of him so that he can have time in the pocket and throw the football. But also, too, didn't touch on this too much, but Cole Kmet and Bobby Tonyan, I think that you need to try and utilize them as much as possible, because you saw what Tonyan was able to do last week. I think that you keep on trying to give him, if he's able to get just 30 yards, right? He is better than the backups that you have at the wide receiver position. So I think you got to try that at least. And also, Luke Getsy, coach this like you're coaching for your job, because you probably are. Try to bring out some of all your favorite plays. We got to beat Green Bay. This is a staple win that the Bears have to have. But let me know what you think down below. But now it's time in the offense for us to talk about some X factors. So for those new to the show, X factors are people that it might not just be Justin Fields, right? You can do Justin Fields. I won't judge you for it. But who is your X factor on this offense? The person that could really kind of transform this game, take it over, and take it up to another notch, so that if they're having a good game, all of a sudden you see this team take over. Now, I'm looking at the roster right now because I'm trying to figure out mine on the fly, because where my mind goes to Khalil Herbert, because we've seen Khalil Herbert absolutely take over the game. When he's cooking, when he's running with a head of steam, this guy is incredible. And DJ Moore's the guy. Is that too chalk, right? Right? It might be. But I'm going to go Nate Davis. It's not going to be a sexy pick, but I'm going Nate Davis. Why? Because he was such a liability last game. I remember watching the tape back, Nate Davis just getting destroyed. I think that he had a sub 90 pass block efficiency percentage. It was some horrific percentage. Nate Davis, low-key, needs to have a good game, because you can cut him and get rid of him. You would eat a decent amount of salary cap, and you'd save, I think it was like $2 or $3 million. But this is a big game for Nate Davis to say, hey, I at least deserve a shot next year, because I can play like that guy did in Tennessee that was called Nate Davis, right? I can play like him. I'm going to put Nate Davis as my X factor because of Clark, because of Wyatt, and I think he really needs that, because without that, I'm not going to trust Lucas Patrick to block anybody. That's for dang sure, right? So Nate Davis, it's not sexy, but he is my X factor of the game. So that's what I have as well. But also, Ron has his pick in 35-10, and Fields yells, "I own you now." Ooh, got the goosebumps after that one. That would be unbelievable. That would be so poetic, because we even have Aaron Rodgers, talking trash out there like, oh yeah, this is their Super Bowl. Yes, it is. Yes, this is the big game. We got our butts whooped last time, 38-20. We're gonna, if we win this, we're gonna be bragging about this all offseason. The Lions, people thought that the Lions were getting into that a lot. Us Bears fans, we're gonna be going full out into that if and when we end up winning. But let's go over to the defense, shall we? And before we go into that, I have a couple stats that I just want to humbly brag about our Chicago Bears, because I always like giving out those DVOA stats, because it's kind of that advanced analytic that really talks about how good a team actually is, right? It doesn't just factor in the stats, it factors in where they play, the weather they play, and I've discovered a new stat on that DVOA, which is weighted DVOA. And for those that follow me out on Twitter at Unbearable Sport, you might have already seen that I posted this out there. The Bears are in weighted DVOA, which means that they exclude a lot of the earlier games and they heavily weight the newer games that we just have played. So it really kind of is a better gauge of how good you actually are right now, right? It's a better power ranking than those other ones you see on like NFL Network and stuff like that. The Bears are the 7th best in football in the DVOA ranking, which means that this is like an advanced analytical tool that says this is the 7th best team in the NFL, the Chicago Bears, right? That's a great thing to say. That is a great thing to see, right? It's just one stat point, but dang it, I'm going to love that. I'm going to love that stat point that says we're the 7th best team. I'll take it as much as I can. But the Green Bay Packers in that same stat, 20th, because they haven't looked as good as they have throughout this entire the end of the season. So the Chicago Bears do really have a chance. And that's why a lot of bettors, they might see this 3-point spread that they're giving the Bears 3 points as maybe a money-making opportunity. But let's flip over to this defense because we got to talk about these monsters. The Chicago Bears defense is full of these superstars, full of these monsters. We already know who they are. But let's get into it, shall we? Because this Chicago Bears defense, we got to see Montez Sweat out there because we have Montez Sweat, Edwards, Jalen Johnson if he's ready to play, right? But if Jalen's not ready to go, we're going to see a Terrell Smith fill that spot for him on the defense, which in all honesty, Terrell Smith has not been bad. He's been a big blessing, a big hit for Ryan Poles on this defense, and you love to see it, right? So I want to see Jalen Johnson out there playing. I want to see him balling. And I think this also adds to how the Bears are this season, right? If someone was trying to get number one corner money, they would just sit out right now, right? There's no reason for him to play in this game, but it's the way this team is built, the way this team is wired. He wants to play. He wants to beat Green Bay, and it would be great if we could see him out there, right? Because this team has a lot of the different superstars out there with Sweat, or stars with Sweat, Edwards, Johnson, and also Kyler Gordon, and Stevenson really kind of getting in to his own zone. So I ask you guys this question: over under 1.5 turnovers forced for this Bears defense. How many turnovers do you think that this Bears defense will end up getting? Because when we played them last time, we recovered 3 separate fumbles. We sacked Jordan Love. Actually, never mind. They fumbled it twice. Jordan Love fumbled, Sean Clifford fumbled, but nobody recovered anything. So there was 0 turnovers. Are we going to get more than 1.5? Right? But I really do think that this Bears defense, the monsters on it, this is what the identity of the Chicago Bears is, what they are right now, and it's just fun to watch. But let's talk a little bit about this Green Bay Packers offense. Because this Packers offense, I got to say, their wide receivers are playing pretty well this year, right? No one's turning into a superstar, right? Christian Watson does not look like DJ Moore, like a lot of Packer fans thought he was going to be. But Reed has been a pretty big surprise. Jaden Reed for them out of the slot wide receiver position. Romeo Doubs is a solid wide receiver, and Christian Watson is a big play threat. He drops the ball a lot, but he's a big play threat. And when Dontayvion Wicks is out there, like we said in our draft coverage, he had, I believe it was over 20% drop percentage. The guy can't catch. And that echoes into the NFL as well. But when you look at this Packers offense too, the offensive line is makeshift, right? And I said this at the beginning of the year. I didn't understand the hype for this offensive line, really, and I kind of assumed Bakhtiari was going to be injured, and he is, right? So they have rookie Rasheed Walker, a 7th-round pick out of Penn State at the left tackle position, who hasn't been awful for a 7th-round pick, but also Zach Tom as their right tackle is PFF's 14th highest graded right tackle. He's really been a good right tackle for them. But when you look up the middle, Josh Myers, the center, bad year so far this year. John Runyan, not a great year at the right guard position. And like we said, Elton Jenkins probably not going to play, might not play at that left guard spot. So what I'm looking at is up the middle. This up the middle, Bears can probably get some pressure, scheme up some pressure, right? Move Montez Sweat on into the interior and Gervon Dexter, right? That's going to be the big thing that I'm looking at is can Gervon Dexter generate some pressure? And also Justin Jones. Remember when Justin Jones talked a whole bunch of smack about the Green Bay Packers? Now let's back it up, right? Because then the Packers fans said, who's Justin Jones? And he didn't do anything. I believe he didn't register a single stat the entire game, right? There's a lot of stuff that this Chicago Bears team needs to do, that we need to try and attack this team. And I think up the middle is the best way that we're going to be able to do that. I want to see Montez Sweat in the middle. I want to see Walker in the middle. I want to see some weird protection calls that they have to make up the middle. I think that's where you attack them. And also, I like the idea of putting Sweat against their left tackle, right? They got a rookie, Rasheed Walker. Why not shift him over? Because Zach Tom is good, right? He's a good right tackle, so why not put your best player against their worst player, right? That's something that I think that could be a pretty good matchup if I am the Chicago Bears. So let's get down to your comments too. We got Dan Bear Down from Fresno, California. Must be pretty warm there. Kind of jealous right now, Dan, but also Ron saying, if Montez Sweat was playing for Bears week 1, would Bears make the playoffs? Good question. And I was thinking about this. That's a really good question, Ron, because I was thinking about this today, actually, because I was going through some of my old tweets, and I have one locked and loaded that I was going to share out, but I'll let you all know right now, because I tweeted out how no team that has lost the first 3 games by over double digits has ever made the playoffs. And you look at the average wins, it's 3. And here's our Chicago Bears with more than 3 wins, right? More than 4 wins, more than 5 wins, more than 6 wins, right? What the Bears have done with this turnaround is nothing short of amazing, right? I think if this Bears team was at the beginning, this is easily a playoff team. But if Montez Sweat was with that team that just didn't seem like they were gelling, didn't seem like they were vibing, I mean, I would say they would, just because, you know what? I'm actually going to say no, because I think the addition of Montez Sweat kickstarted them, right? That's a very good question, though. I'm curious if anyone else in the comments, too. That's a very good question, though, Ron. But also, Bears Junkie, I hope Justin does the discount double check. Man, if he can do that and just start saying I own you, right? That would be incredible. And Philip, what's up, my man? Bear Down. Happy New Year indeed. Nice to see you, my friend. But let's keep on going into this defense, shall we? Because this is the most enjoyable team to watch. This is the most enjoyable side of football for us Bears fans to watch. So I just hope they can close it down, shut it down. And I really do think that they have a good chance, because I think that this secondary matches up good. They're going to be going against a good test, because every spot that you go, this is a deep wide receiver room for the Green Bay Packers. It is. Luke Musgrave, who's probably going to be playing, is a pretty good athlete. They have solid weapons, right? Nothing unbelievable, just solid weapons. I think it's going to test this defense, and it's going to be I think that it's going to be a great barometer to see where this defense is at the very end. So we shall see. But now let's talk about some X factors, shall we? So let's go over to the defensive X factor. Who do you think is going to turn the tide for this defense against the Green Bay Packers? Because I'm looking at this defense right now. Same thing. I actually do not write these down when I do this show. I actually do this live because I want to look at this and say, who do I think is someone that can transform the way that this game goes? And when I look at this too, I think about the pressure, right? The pressure that we can potentially get up the middle. And I mean, Montez Sweat could be a good X factor because I think that he's going to be playing everywhere. I want to use someone that is going to be up the middle. I haven't used this guy all year. I'm going to go Gervon Dexter. I'm going to go the big boy. What is it? Dino Rex? I forgot what his nickname is. It's something super cool. If anyone remembers, let me know in the comments. But I'm going to go Gervon Dexter. So I think that Gervon if he's able to create some sort of push up the middle, make them uncomfortable, try to overwhelm them with the strength, right? They saw this guy week 1. This guy has gotten better week after week after week. I think he's going to be a big X factor, because if he can go up the middle and pressure him, my God, then I think that's going to make it a lot more dangerous. The other person I was thinking was actually like an Eddie Jackson, right, to cover the deep ball, make a big play, because we really haven't seen that. This might be Eddie Jackson's last game, because his guaranteed money is basically up, so you could have him as a quote-unquote cap casualty when you're really just trying to save some money, or a Tyreek Stevenson, because we know when Tyreek Stevenson plays well, we see what happens. We knew that he was going to have ups and downs, but his ups are looking pretty darn good. But let's see. Philip, you and I, same page. Gervon Dexter as our guy. And also, Philip, what is your ultimate draft compensation? Ooh, I'll answer that later on in the show. I think I got to do that. But then Dobbsy saying, X Factor, obvious JF1. If he's trying to play for his last game as a Bear, he could play quite well. Man, I hope that we end up keeping him. And I'll talk about it more and more and more on some other shows, but I know that I've been critical of Justin Fields because he just has to get the ball out. But I've also said, too, he's kind of one of those guys where he reminds me of a guy I worked with. And for those that have listened to the show a bunch, you might have already heard me say this story, but someone that had all the traits at my job, and he had all the potential, but it took him getting fired from his job to then live a great life and go to Microsoft and become this very successful person. I don't want that to happen to Justin Fields, and I think the way that this chemistry is feeling, the way that it's vibing, he feels more comfortable. That's a great way to get him going and get him feeling good without getting rid of him, and then you don't reap the benefits. So I'm hoping that this entire locker room, this entire vibe just continues on and he's able to play well. But also Bears Junkie saying DeMarcus Walker is his X factor. If he is having a good game, the rest of the defensive line is having a good game. That's a very good point. I really like that one. And then Reload saying TJ Edwards, why is nobody talking about him? Right? Because everyone's like nobody talks about TJ Edwards as one of the better linebackers. And I think it's because it's Batman and Robin, with Batman being Edmonds and Robin being Edwards. And then Robin is a better crime fighter than Batman right now, like by a significant margin, right? Like Batman's just sitting up on the sidelines being like, you do your thing, man. And Robin is he's cleaning up crime. Robin has taken out the Joker, right? That's Tremaine that's TJ Edwards right now. He's doing everything. And I think that's why, in all seriousness, I think that's why he's not getting as much love, because people guess that he is just the Robin, right? He's not the big name guy, but he's playing. You compare what he's doing to Roquan Smith. I might even say it's more impressive what TJ Edwards is doing than a Roquan Smith. And TJ Edwards, 6th highest graded linebacker according to PFF, right? So I know PFF's grades take with a grain of salt, but I like it when it supports the Bears, right? But let's get into prediction time, shall we? I know we have a couple of those out there, but as you all know, let us know the score and one bold take, something real bold, right? So I'm looking at this game. I'm kind of feeling like the Bears are just not going to let up, right? And I know there is the Bears fan in me right now that's sitting right there, right? Or actually, it's the cat that's right there that's sitting next to me, right? That cat is telling me, Brad, the Bears always lose to the Packers. But I got to go back to it. This is part about being a fan, right? You see what the Bears could potentially do, right? Even though that Jordan Love technically has the most passing yards compared to any Bears quarterback and passing touchdowns, right? But I think that this defense is going to play. I think this defense is going to do well. I'm going to go Packers get 17 points and the Bears get 34 points. Bear down. Bears win 34-17. Blow them out. Packer fans just sit there and they just have to take it. They just leave early. There's nothing for them to do, right? I think that the Bears ultimately win. And you know what? This is a bold take because it's Justin Fields who's only thrown for one 300-yard passing game. I'm going to say Justin goes for over I mean, if he goes for over 350 total yards, that might not be too bold, right? You know what? Over 300 rushing yards. Oh, no, not rushing yards. Over 300 passing yards and over 75 rushing yards. I'm going to go with that. Let's book it. I'm going to say JF1 just dominates, absolutely takes everything, and he's just, he's doing this. He's taking it in from all the Green Bay Packer fans as they're just sitting there in silence. That is going to be the way I want Justin Fields to end this season, because if that happens, we're going to be sitting there pretty, feeling good, and just taking in the Packer tears. And actually, we have a Packer tears mug if you look down in the merch store. I actually need to buy myself one. So if they do that, I'll buy one and I'll bring it live on the show, and we can drink some delicious Packer tears. I might have to buy it anyways. So let's see what Bears Bones has to say. We have to play Justin Fields, trade possibility to get the most out of the trade value for the number one pick. I do agree. And then also Bears Bones, 3 takeaways. That is a bold take indeed. But the Bears have been taking the ball away. So I definitely agree. And also Bears Junkie, I don't want to talk about TJ. I don't want anybody else to know how good of a deal we got, right? I feel bad. Like, does anybody else feel bad for him a little bit? Because I do feel bad sometimes for TJ, because I'm like, dude, you got like $6 million a year and you're playing like one of the best linebackers in the league. The dude next to you got 3 times the amount. And you're sitting here, but for real, like, all of us as Bears fans, we're going to sit here. Like, if I was a better athlete, right, I'd play for the Bears for a third of the price. I'd play for them for a cheaper price for sure. But also, we got to do this. We got to do the coin flip bracket. And for those that, you might have missed this on the show, if you skipped one of the shows at all, the coin flip always does tails. I don't know why. This coin flip app always does. But for the past 2 times, it has done heads. And the coin flip historically has been the most accurate thing over anything else in the world, I'll say. So let's flip. Heads means the Bears win. Tails mean the Bears lose. So let's see. Come on. Heads. It's heads. The Bears will win. So says the coin flip. So says everybody out in the chat. Let's frickin' bear down. That's right, Jason. Let's bear down, boys. Because Chicago Bears, it's heads. That means Bears are going to win. I'm feeling good about this right now. But let's go up, because I know that there were some draft questions. Let's answer those just to finish it out, because the preview is all done, but I want to talk draft because draft is the freaking best out there. So I know Bears Junkie says, besides Marvin, how do the other wide receivers in his class look? Very good question. I'm going to do a video on this because I actually started grinding the tape on these wide receivers. I'll actually bring up my rankings right now. I actually really like this wide receiver class. And anybody else that's watched the wide receivers, let us know down also in the comments too. I actually really like this wide receiver class because I like it later on. I like it in the second round. I think that there's a lot of pretty good talent. And of course, right now I can't find my actual takes. So there's like Troy Franklin out of Oregon. He's got like NFL size. Ladd McConkey, a good slot receiver out of Georgia. Xavier Legette looks like DK Metcalf. Xavier Worthy that you might have seen with Texas, just an absolute speedster. There's a lot of good talent in this second round that the Bears can get. I think the big question is Malik Neighbors at kind of as that next tier, and then also Rome Odunze. And I've seen a lot of people talk about Rome Odunze. I'm technically lower on him, quote unquote. I have him just as like a first round grade, but I see some people have him above Neighbors and stuff like that. So to me, I don't see Rome that good, but I think it's the way I phrase it is Marvin Harrison Jr. is wide receiver 1 in every draft, right? And then Malik Neighbors should be wide receiver 1 in most drafts, but he's in the same class as Marvin Harrison Jr., right? Or Malik Neighbors is in the same class as Marvin Harrison Jr. And then there's Rome Odunze, where I think that he would have been wide receiver 1 last year, right? And last year, there wasn't like an elite wide receiver. He could have been like him and JSN would have been like back and forth. But I really think that there's 2 top-heavy prospects. One guy that I think deserves a first-round grade, but then I think the rest I kind of have as like back end of the first, early day 2 types of grades. So if the Bears are able to trade back with like a Washington and get that early second, I think that that's a pretty darn good. You could grab one of those wide receivers out there if you could. Also, Philip's question, what is your ultimate draft pick compensation if you trade the number 1 pick? I hope Poles gets several teams to bid for the number 1 pick. I love Washington. I love the idea of Washington. I think for me, my dream, right? You trade back and you get Marvin Harrison Jr. If you can get 2 first-round picks, I think no matter what, I want a first-round pick next year. And I said this a little bit on one of the episodes where my biggest thing is get capital next year. Because if you're trying out Justin Fields, right, this is a great relation. It's like being in a relationship, right? The relationship that you're in is getting better and better and better and better. You just want to know if this person's wife material, right? And Justin right now, he's shown great traits. He's shown what he can be. And, you know, you look and you're like, this person's got great potential. And I think that when you get that draft capital next year, why that's so huge for me, right? If you can get a first or 2 firsts, right? I would want, if you're trading back, if we can get the 2 first in Jonathan Allen, heck yeah, right? And draft Marvin Harrison Jr. But I think if you can get some of those first next year, now you have the power to maneuver wherever the heck you want on the board and get that next quarterback if Justin Fields isn't the guy, if Justin doesn't take that next leap, which he has been doing every single year. So awesome questions. I'm going to scroll down to the rest of the stuff that we got out there. What's up, Bears Junkie? And then also a lot of good wide receivers. Yeah, Dobbsy, agree with you with a lot of those too. Jason I would be good with Neighbors. Yeah, if we don't get, yeah, I'm kind of in that same boat too, Jason, where it's like, if we don't get Neighbors, I'm kind of fine with Marvin Harrison Jr. as well. And then also Bears Junkie. I like the Raiders better only because historically they are a dumber team and it's more likely they'll give us more picks. That's a good choice, right? I do like that. I will say this though. I've seen a lot of stuff about the Raiders trading Max Crosby. Even though I'd love Max Crosby, I don't think they would, just because I think they're trying to build something and he's such a big culture guy, right? I could see them trying to pawn off Devontae Adams, which quite frankly, I don't want, because he's like 31 or 32 years old and he's got a huge contract. So to me, I think it's also with like the Patriots, right? The Patriots, I would just want straight picks. I don't even want to mess with any of the Patriots guys, because anytime a Patriot goes to another team, they end up not doing well. But all right, I think that's all the questions today. Thank you all so much for coming out. Love these live shows. Love seeing so much of you out there in the chat, seeing all of you back again. It's going to be a good year this year, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you all so much. Make sure to like and subscribe out there for all those watching. And with that, Unbearable Sports Podcast, bear down, and we're out.
Yeah, she's got some nice long